How's it going, guys? So in today's tutorial, we're going to be creating kinetic animations. This one specifically has some really cool stuff going on, and there's a little bit more complexity than may meet the eye. I've made kinetic animations before. I love them. Today, we're going to talk about kind of theory, how you can kind of make tons of them, and I'll be certainly making quite a few more here on the channel. But this is kind of an overview and a tutorial how to make this specific animation. So let's get right into it. So this is the project file that we're going to be walking away with today. You can get the file right now on Patreon. All Patreon subscribers get the project files for tutorials, so you can get that now. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and open up a new instance of Blender and fire away. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything. We are working in Blender 3.3, but this is some pretty, I wouldn't say old school, but just regular workflow stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're in an old version. You can probably even use 2.9 for this. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get in a circle. And then in the circle, right here on fill type, we're going to go in-gone. Vertices, we're going to go 85. And then on radius, let's just go here to 8. And we're going to be ready to go. I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to hit I. And just bring in your circle to be about this big. This part you just kind of eyeball, but right about there is going to be good enough for whatever you're doing. Again, this is not rocket science. It does not need to be specific or exact. Let's go ahead now and get a loop cut and just click. And then go right over here, and we're going to get 10 loop cuts just like that. And now we have this. Now what we need to do is a little bit of selecting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here. I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift and select right here. And that's going to give you this loop selection, and then skip every other loop. So just like that, and then skip this one, go to this one, skip this one until you're here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to bring these down just like this. So we're going to bring them all down. And again, just kind of eyeball it, bring it back right about to here. And then I am going to hit Control A and apply scale just in case it didn't apply. I think it might automatically, but I don't know. Whenever we did the 8 scaling. Now, while in edit mode, go to bevel, bring this up, and then with your scroll wheel, you can bevel. Now, if the scroll wheel thing isn't working for you, or your kind of hand coordination isn't the greatest, you can also just click, kind of bring it in, click away, and then you can play with your segments here, and also the bevel amount here. So you don't have to kind of multitask if that's not something that you're comfortable with. All right, so now we have here. Again, let's kind of eyeball it. How deep do you want your crevasse or whatever? Now let's do the opposite. Let's go ahead and go back and select these guys, holding down Shift. Select these top sections. And we're going to manually bevel those as well. And I'm just going to give them a slight bevel. Don't want to make them too round. I do want this to come to a relative point. Now let's go ahead and give this a little bit of a special treatment. So we're going to go here and select face, bring this down, and then we're going to go back and select this guy and select this guy. And again, let's go ahead and bevel it, but bevel it real round, something like that. And then now shade smooth, and we have our ripple looking thing, and we are good to go for the remainder of this tutorial. So now that we're here, notice that this guy is kind of under the whole grid. So I'm gonna hit the tilde key and click front. That's what I just did. I'm gonna hit tab and then hit A to select everything. And then we're just gonna bring this above that little red line there, just to keep it nice and good looking. All right, cool. Now we can start modeling the object that's going to go around in circles. So I'm going to select this guy and hit H. Now I'm going to go Shift A and get a UV sphere. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Tab, go to the face select, and then I'm just going to click one of these, and I'm going to hit C. And then what that allows you to do, and then you can use your scroll wheel to make it bigger and smaller, and allows you to select. And then we're going to go down here, holding down Shift, select, and then hit C again. And then just make sure they're both selected, hit X and click faces. We cut a hole. And then we can go here to the line tool again, hold down Alt and Shift, click this one, hold down Alt Shift, click this one. Now let's go ahead and hit F3 and type in bridge edge loops, BRIDG. All you're really gonna need to type in bridge. and it's going to do that magic. And I don't know if this really matters, but I'm going to throw some loop cuts in here as well so that it looks relatively similar to what's going on outside. I really don't know if that's going to help it or not, but it makes me feel better that it's kind of as dense in here as it is out there. Cool. Now we're going to do just a little bit more modeling, and then we can get into the kinetic aspect of this tutorial. But I love design, so I'm not just going to teach you how to make kinetic animations, but I'm going to teach you how to make a really cool looking kinetic animation because that's important to me. So go back to face select, hold down Alt, and just start selecting every other section, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and click on individual origins, and then hit E. S. E is for extrude, S is for scale. Bring it in like that. We're going to go add modifier and get in a bevel. And then just go ahead and give it as many segments as you like. Right click, shade smooth. And we've made a bee's nest. All right. Now let's go ahead and make this work. Let's make this kinetic and cool and awesome. So first, let's go ahead and get a curve, and we're going to get our Bezier curve right down here. And then click on this guy, and we need to go to our constraints. So right over here is your constraint section, add object constraint, follow path, and select that Bezier circle. So now when you select the circle and bring it up to where it needs to be, and then fill this section here, and then make this guy fit in this section. So now he kind of fits here. He definitely can be scaled correctly like that. And then, nice. My cat is going to join us for the rest of this tutorial. So, all right. So how this works is this kind of goes in a circle, but of course we need to make it look like it's round. I mean, it's rolling, and in this case, I want to make it look like it's kind of rolling off axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R twice on this guy, and just pick however wobbly we want it to look, kind of like that. And then I'm going to hit Control A, apply rotation, and so when he starts moving around, he is going to rotate like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So we need to go back to our constraints, click on follow curve, and then we need to animate this movement right here. So right down here, I'm going to give it 120 frames. We're going to go back, keyframe, and for those of you who don't have your default settings set up, go to Edit, Preferences, in the Animation tab, make sure your default interpolation is set to linear. I have that set by default for me because I'm rarely using Bezier keyframes because I loop things all the time. So first off, let's just go make sure that this guy is sitting close to the ground. Looks like he is. So just kind of bring it up till he's not intersecting with the ground plane. Boom. All right. So now he's ready to be animated. So again, we're going to go back to frame 0. Very important. And this guy, go to 0. Now click on keyframe. Go to the end, type in 100, enter keyframe, and he's going to do this. Now, here comes the math portion of the tutorial. And by math, I just mean 360 time however many rotations we want. Because basically, unless we want to do some geonodes or whatever craziness to make it look like it's rotating correctly, I think CG Matter has a video on that. We just need to make this thing rotate the amount of times that it would be appropriate to make it look like it's actually rotating around. And for me, this inside is 1440. Now, here's what's cool about Blender. It can do the math for you. So if I type in 360, which is one full rotation, and then asterisk 3, enter, we get 1080. So that means 360, which is one rotation, 3 rotations of that would equal 1080. So we need 1440. I forget what that is. So let's try to figure that out. 360 asterisk 4. Okay, so it's 4 rotations. So that's what we need. So I have it written down, all of the math on a paper already, so we don't have to do that for each one of them. But just know that's what we're doing. We're doing 360 asterisk some number. So when I originally made this animation, that's what I had to do. And so the farther this goes out, the quicker the ball has to spin, more rotations. So 360 times 7 or 8 or 9, all of that. So again, I believe it needs to be this axis for me, the x-axis. So we're going to click this, go to the very end, and type in 1440, enter. And then now he is rolling appropriately. And we're going to do that for every single one of these. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to hit Shift D, and then I'm going to go ahead and select this new Bezier circle. I'm going to hit the tilde key and go to the top, and then just rotate it. So now we have 2 of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these, hit M, new collection, and call this circle 1. And this is super important. If you don't make collections for this, it is going to be difficult when it goes to duplicating and finding all these guys. So we're going to do that now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click this guy. What I'm going to do now is select this guy here. And then figure out, okay, so I need to also select him. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate both of them. And then again, select this Bezier 002. Hit S and scale it out to here. And then now, hold down Shift and select this guy, hit M, new collection, circle 2. There we go. Now we have this, but I don't want them to match. We want it to be offset, so I'm going to just hit R, do that, and then do the same thing now. Hit Shift D, and then again, select this new Bezier circle, go to like there. Now that's circle 2. So what you want to do is duplicate this process all around. But here's the issue. Now this guy looks like he's sliding all around. So on my piece of paper here, it looks like this next one, we're going to go to the very end. Right here on 1440, instead of 1440, we're going to do 2160, 2160, enter, right click, and then replace keyframes. And notice this one is now rolling. This one needs to be fixed. This one here needs to be fixed. So again, 2160, enter, right click, and then replace keyframes. And now these guys are now appropriately rolling. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and give you the numbers for the rest of these. So go ahead and duplicate your circles, make new collections for each of these circles, and then type in those numbers here. So I'm going to give you the numbers for each, and then I'll let you do that. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of speed through this part because it's just the same thing over and over, just with different numbers. So once we're done there, we'll come back and I'll show you the remainder of the tutorial. All right, we're back. I left this last one blank because I wanted to show you guys a little trick that I realized that I came up with as I was finishing this portion of the tutorial. So say you wanted to duplicate this last one, like just any of them. So what you do is just go ahead and highlight all of them by clicking one, holding Shift and clicking this one, and then hit Shift D. And then before clicking away, just hit M, new collection, and call it CIRCLE, in this case, circle 5. And that will automatically put those new ones into a new selection, and then you can move all of them at the same time to the center, which is nice. But of course, you would only want to select the Bezier circles and then do that. And then just hit R on this one and R on that one. And then again, as per my piece of paper, we're going to go ahead. It looks like 4680 on this one. 4680, enter, and then hit I. And then of course on the other one, 4680, 4680, enter, hit I. And with all that being said and done, we have our kinetic animation ready to be shaded and lit. We're here. Definitely save at this point in time. We'll just call it save. Now let's go ahead. Now let's go ahead and give it a little bit of lighting. So first I'm going to go ahead and get my camera going. So get my camera. So I'm going to get my camera here, Control-Alt-0, snap it to view. I'm going to hit R twice to kind of rotate it. And then over here in the camera settings, we're going to go from perspective to orthographic. And then we're going to go ahead and play with that orthographic scale, keeping this little circle thing in the middle. I'm going to hit G. And then in my case, I'm just going to hit R and rotate it. There we go. And then you can kind of see the edge. If I go to my camera view, you can kind of see the corner, the edge there. We don't want that. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale it out. So I'm going to hit Alt, click, and then hit S, scale that portion out so that it doesn't, do that. All right, now we have this fun animation happening here. So first, let's go ahead and light it. I'm gonna hit the tilde key and click front so we can kind of reset this whole thing. So first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead, I'm gonna be using cycles for this. I'm gonna use my GPU. My viewport samples at 32. My render samples at 300. Turn off denoising here on my light paths. Click and drag, and we're gonna go to 1. Turn off reflective and refractive. And that should give you a pretty nice looking render. So we're going to go to the render view here now and go ahead and get in a spotlight. And then we're going to hit G and move it up here, something like that. I'm going to hit R twice and do that. And then we're going to bring up that power. First, I do want to scale it down a little bit. And then bring up the power of that light by maybe 3,000. Cool. Now let's go to 10,000. You tend to have to be more dramatic with these. Bring that radius up so the shadow is really soft, just like this. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to go and hit Shift D, move this guy here and hit R, and just rotate it back to where you want this one to be. And then for this one, we're going to go ahead and give this power at 5,000. All right, so now we have this all shaded up. Now let's go ahead and create some materials to make this look really cool. Now, for those of you real-time materials users, I would suggest using the basics. I used those when I first created this animation. So again, you just go over here to the basics, and then I used basic plastic on this bottom portion here, and then I made it kind of a nice blue, which is what we're gonna do when we create the other material, and then bring down the bump scale to maybe 100 so we can see those bumps really nicely. And then for these, I believe I use the basic scratches material. It's like that, so you get some scratches off the bat, and then I made this a little bit yellow. And then bring up that roughness scale to maybe like 2. And then the way you can take all of the materials, which we're also going to do in a minute, is if you say, I don't want to apply that single-handedly to all of them, just go ahead and hold down Shift and select all of them that do not have a material. And then select this one last, Control L, apply, link materials, and there we have it. Now if you don't have the basics materials and some other missing ones, go back to Blender Market or Gumroad and get the updated file in case you haven't updated. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and remove these materials, and we're going to make some materials for those of you who don't have the real-time materials add-on. So let's go here to shading, and we're going to go ahead and click New. All right, and then I'm going to go to the cycles view just because I want to see how it's going to look at the end. And again, give it a nice blue, something like this, and then we're going to go ahead and get a bump node. Come down here, plug it into the normal, and then we're going to get a noise texture and a color ramp. And then if you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know about this. Hit Control T on the noise texture, use the object coordinate, and then use the factor here, and then the color on the height. All right, so now we have that. Distance, 0.1. Detail to 12. And then we're going to go ahead and bring that strength down as well. Bring this color ramp in like this. Bring your color ramp in like this, and then bring that roughness up till you kind of like the bumpiness that's happening here. And then I'm going to bring that strength just a little bit so it's visible just enough here. And then here on these guys, I'm just going to make them a nice shiny yellow material. So give it a really nice bright yellow. And then here we're going to give it a clear coat so it's nice and shiny. And we have it. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing we just did. So hold down Shift and select all the circles and spheres that do not have a material. Select this one last, Control L, link materials. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get my lights to be drastically brighter than they already are because they're just not bright enough. So we're going to go with 30,000 on that guy. And then here on this guy, we're going to go 10,000. Now it's super bright. And then we can just go and to the color management settings, bring your look to high contrast, and then bring your exposure down a little bit if you'd like. And we're done. All that we have to do left is click on motion blur here, and let's render out one of these frames. All right, so this took 16 seconds to render here on my laptop, and it looks good. Nice motion blur, all this stuff just looks awesome, and we are done with this tutorial, finally. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna show you how to export this, and we will be on our way. So click on the little printer icon, choose the resolution you want. I'm gonna keep it native 1080p, frame rate at 24. And then here, what we're gonna wanna do is create a new folder. I'm gonna do it on my desktop, so I'm gonna call it SPINN, or just one N, whatever works for you. And I'm gonna accept. And then we're gonna go down here and keep it at a PNG sequence. That's why we made a new folder, render animation, and you'll be done. And by the time you're done with it, you're gonna have a really cool animation like this one. So there you guys go. Thank you for watching. I really enjoy these kind of kinetic animations. Let me know what you think. Again, if you wanna check out real-time materials, that is in the description. Also, you can get these files on Patreon and all that fun stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.